Minute 90, everything is lost, and suddenly, the same one always appears. The stadium is silent. The clock feels like a sentence. The team needs a goal, a save, a run, a header, a loose ball. And when everyone watches the play as if there were no time left for anything, that player appears. The one who always seems to be in the exact spot. The one who doesn't need to dominate the whole match. The one who doesn't need to be on camera. The one who only needs one play to change history. Sometimes it's a rebound. Sometimes it's a corner. Sometimes it's a penalty. Sometimes it's a ball that no one wants to attack. But he does. He goes. He appears. And then the question arises, why do some footballers appear just when the match needs them the most? The mystery, luck or something more. In football, there are players who shine throughout the entire match. They touch every ball. They organize the team. They manage the rhythm. They seem to always be present. But there are others who have something different. They don't appear all the time. They don't dominate every minute. Sometimes they spend long stretches being almost invisible until the moment that truly carries weight arrives. A final, a derby, a knockout match, a penalty shootout, a play that can change an entire career. There, when the air becomes heavy and the ball seems to burn, they don't hide. They ask for the ball. They attack the box. They dare to shoot. They go for the challenge. They jump higher. And that's why many people say, he's lucky. But luck doesn't explain everything. Because if it were just luck, it wouldn't repeat itself so many times with the same names. Saying that a player always appears doesn't mean they never fail. It means something more interesting. When the context becomes enormous, they don't shrink. And that is the true story of this video. Understanding what lies behind those moments that seem magical, but often begin long before the goal. In small decisions, in repeated habits, and in a mind prepared to never disappear. Caso 1, Martín Palermo contra Peru. Argentina was playing against Peru in the 2010 World Cup qualifiers. It was October 2009. It was raining with brutal force. The pitch was heavy, the ball wasn't rolling cleanly, and the match felt like a trap. Argentina was drawing 1-1. Time was running out. Qualification was in danger. Every cross into the box seemed more desperate than thought out. Every Peruvian clearance made the fear grow. And then, in stoppage time, Martín Palermo appeared. It wasn't a perfect play. It wasn't a work of art. It wasn't an impossible dribble. It was something much simpler and much more powerful. A loose ball, a strange rebound, an area full of legs, a second of confusion, and Palermo pushing it into the net. As if he had been waiting for exactly that chaos. Argentina won 2-1. The stadium exploded under the rain. Maradona dove on his stomach onto the wet grass. And that goal remained marked as one of the most dramatic moments of that qualification. But Palermo doesn't appear there by total chance. Goal scorers live on that. They anticipate rebounds. They follow plays that others abandon. They attack zones where defenders hesitate. In key moments, it's not always the most elegant who wins. Sometimes it's the one who believes 1 second longer who wins. The one who keeps running when everyone else stops. The one who understands that an ugly ball can also be worth a World Cup. That type of appearance isn't trained just with shots on goal. It is also trained with patience, with hunger, by repeating the same movement 1,000 times until the body knows where to go before thinking about it. And that is where the famous goal scorer's instinct is born. Pressure doesn't disappear, it transforms. When a match enters a critical zone, the body changes, the heart beats faster, breathing becomes shallow, muscles tense up, and the mind starts imagining consequences. If I fail, we're out. If I lose this ball, they'll kill me. If I miss this penalty, no one will forget it. In seconds, a play stops being a play and becomes a threat. For many players, that pressure shrinks them. They start playing it safe. They avoid risk. They hide behind a teammate, not because they lack talent, but because the moment became too big. But decisive players process that pressure differently. It doesn't mean they don't feel fear. Of course they do. They also hear the stadium. They also know what's at stake. They also understand that they could be marked. The difference is that they don't read that pressure as a sentence. They read it as an opportunity. Where others see danger, they see an open door. Where others think, I can't fail, they think, this one could be mine. That's why the decisive player isn't a robot without nerves. They are someone who manages to turn nerves into movement, into concentration, into positive aggression, into a quick decision. And when everyone doubts for half a second, that half second is enough. Because in football, appearing often doesn't mean having more time. It means acting before fear stops you. That is the invisible advantage. It's not seen in statistics, but it appears at the exact moment. Sergio Ramos and the 92:48-minute 2014 Champions League final. Real Madrid was losing 1-0 against Atletico de Madrid. The match was slipping away. La Decima seemed to be slipping away again, and every second made the night heavier. Atletico was about to touch glory. Real Madrid was attacking with urgency. There was no margin left for an elaborate play. All that was left was to send the ball into the box and believe. Then the corner kick arrived. Minute 92, cross by Luka Modric. The ball traveled toward an area full of bodies, shoves, and fear, and there Sergio Ramos appeared. He jumped as if the match still had a hidden life. He won the aerial challenge. He headed it crosswise, and the ball went in by the post. It wasn't just a goal, it was an emotional blow. Atletico went from feeling like champions to feeling like everything could crumble. Real Madrid went from despair to absolute faith. Afterwards, in extra time, the match changed completely. Real Madrid ended up winning 4-1, but the moment that split the final in two was that header, that jump, that second. The important thing is not only that Ramos finished well, the important thing is that he attacked the moment. He didn't stay watching the end. He didn't wait for someone else to resolve it. He went to look for the heaviest ball of the night. And that explains another characteristic of decisive players. When the match is dying, they don't stay waiting for a miracle. They move towards where the miracle can happen. Sometimes appearing isn't luck. It's having the courage to go to the place where everyone knows the last opportunity can fall, even when it seems too late to try. Reading the game before anyone else. Sometimes we say, he appeared out of nowhere, but in football, hardly anyone appears out of nowhere. What happens is that some players understand sooner where the play is going to break. They see the defender who lost the mark. They see the midfielder who arrives late. They see the space that opens for a second. They see the rebound before it exists. For the spectator, everything seems fast. The ball goes, hits, falls, and suddenly someone is alone. But for the decisive player, that scene started earlier. It started when he read the opponent's body, when he saw that the goalkeeper took a strange step, when he noticed that a teammate was going to cross without lifting his head. That is why the key moment is not only emotional, it is also spatial. It has to do with occupying the right place, in the right second, before others understand what is happening. A goal scorer doesn't run into the box just because. A defender doesn't clear just because. A goalkeeper doesn't fly just because. Everyone is reading small signals, and decisive players usually read them first. That instant doesn't seem like much, but in the box it's worth gold. It can be the difference between watching the play and appearing within it. That's where that sense of magnetism is born. It's not that the ball searches for them, it's that they were already walking towards where it was going to fall. Barcelona's comeback against PSG. Barcelona had lost 4-0 against PSG in the first leg of the 2017 Champions League round of 16. For many, the story was already closed. For goals down in Europe is not a disadvantage, it is a mountain. But in the second leg, at the Camp Nou, Barcelona started to push as if there was still something alive. Goal after goal, the stadium kept changing. First hope, then tension, then a strange feeling. What if it happens? PSG scored a goal and cooled everything down again. At that moment, Barcelona needed 3 more. It seemed impossible again, but key moments do not always appear when everything is going well. Sometimes they appear right after the blow. Neymar took responsibility in the final stretch. He scored a free kick goal. Then he converted a penalty, and when there was one last ball left, he lifted his head and put a perfect cross into the box. Sergi Roberto entered like an arrow. He was not the name everyone was expecting. He was not the main star, but he attacked the exact space, in the exact second, and pushed in the 6-1. That goal was not just a finish, it was the closing of a comeback that seemed written against logic. An entire team kept believing when the scoreboard said it made no sense. And there another important idea appears. Being decisive does not always mean doing everything alone. Sometimes it means sustaining the team's energy, asking for one more, trying one more, running one more. Because in a comeback, faith is also contagious. If one gives up, the stadium feels it. But if one insists, the others start to believe. And when many believe at the same time, the rival also perceives it. They no longer defend just a result. They defend against a wave, against the noise, against the fear of losing something that seemed won. The player's emotional memory. Confidence is not born from a motivational phrase. It does not appear because someone says, "You can." Confidence is built when a player has already passed through the fire and walked out. When they have already scored an important goal. When they have already taken a heavy penalty. When they have already played a huge final. When they have already felt the stadium on top of them and kept breathing. The brain stores all of that. It stores the noise. It stores the pressure. It stores the sensation of having millions of eyes watching the same ball. And then, when the player is in a similar situation again, something changes. They do not enter unknown territory. They enter a place they have visited before. They can tell themselves inwardly, "I've been here before." And that silent phrase weighs a lot, because it reduces fear. It orders the body. It reminds them that that pressure did not destroy them last time. That is why experience in big matches is worth so much. Not just because of the years. Not just because of the titles. It is worth it because it leaves emotional traces that are later activated in the tensest moments. A young player may have plenty of talent, but if they have never lived through that weight, they may feel that the match overwhelms them. The decisive player, on the other hand, recognizes the scenario. They know that the heart will speed up. They know that the stadium will roar. And even so, they do not interpret it as a sign of danger, but as a sign that their moment has arrived. Didier Drogba in the 2012 Champions League final. 2012 Champions League final. Chelsea against Bayern Munich. But there was a huge detail. The match was played at Bayern's home, in their stadium, in front of their people, with everything prepared for a German coronation. Chelsea resisted as best they could. Bayern attacked again and again. And when Thomas Muller scored 1-0 near the end, the feeling was clear. The cup was staying in Munich. But there was still one play left. A corner. A ball into the box. An instant for someone to change the destiny of the night. And there Didier Drogba appeared. He separated from his marker. He attacked the ball with brutal force. He headed it with unstoppable power. Goal. Draw. Silence in the Allianz Arena. But the most impressive thing came later. The match went to penalties. Chelsea had the chance to win their first Champions League, and the last penalty was left at the feet of the same man. Drogba walked towards the ball knowing he could become a hero or be marked forever. There was no safe zone. There were no excuses. Only him, the goalkeeper, and millions watching. He took his run-up. He shot. Goal. Chelsea, champions of Europe. Drogba appeared twice in the same final. First to avoid defeat, stopwatch, then to win the cup. And that shows something huge about decisive players. They don't just have technique. They have a special relationship with responsibility. They don't flee from the last ball. They don't hide from the last penalty. They accept it. They carry it. They transform it into an opportunity. Because for them, the heaviest moment is not always a threat. Sometimes it is exactly the place where they want to be. Competitive personality. There is a huge difference between wanting to win and daring to carry the weight of winning. Almost everyone wants to celebrate. Almost everyone wants to lift the cup, but not everyone wants the ball when it burns. Because in decisive moments, the risk changes. It is no longer just about playing well. It is about exposing yourself, about accepting that a decision can haunt you for years. The decisive player understands that and still raises their hand. They ask for the pass. They offer themselves. They look at their teammate and say, without speaking, "Give it to me." That doesn't mean they will always resolve it. It doesn't mean they have a special power. It means they accept entering a zone where the prize is huge, but the blow is too. To score the goal that everyone remembers, you first have to be willing to miss the goal that everyone will remember. And that phrase explains a lot, because many players have talent, many have technique, many can do incredible things in training or in quiet matches. But when the pressure tightens, another question appears. Who wants to take charge? That is where paths separate. Some look for a safe exit, others approach the ball, not because they aren't afraid, but because they prefer to live with the risk rather than hide from it. And that competitive personality is not only noticed in goals, it is noticed in asking for a penalty, in going to look for a rebound, in marking the most dangerous rival, or in attempting the pass that can change everything. Historical cases. And if we look at history, the examples multiply. Lionel Messi against Mexico in Qatar 2022. Argentina was beaten after losing to Saudi Arabia. The match was close, uncomfortable, dangerous. And then Messi found a minimum space, pulled a left-footed shot from outside the area, and liberated an entire country. Kylian Mbappé in the 2022 World Cup final did something similar. But from the other emotional side, France seemed defeated against Argentina. It found no answers. The match was slipping away, and suddenly, Mbappé scored 2 goals in less than 2 minutes. Afterwards, he made another in extra time. He didn't win the final, but he appeared in a gigantic scene. Andres Iniesta in the 2010 World Cup final also lived that type of moment. Spain didn't find the goal against the Netherlands. The match was stuck, hard, exhausting, until in minute 116, Iniesta received inside the area and defined cross, a clean shot. A champion country for the first time game. Mario Götze in 2014 was another perfect example. Germany and Argentina were 0-0 in extra time. Fatigue weighed on everyone. Skirl launched the cross. Götze controlled with his chest and defined with his left foot. Everything in seconds. Everything to decide an entire World Cup. And these cases show something key. There is no single way to appear. Messi appeared with precision. Mbappé with rebellion. Iniesta with calm. Götze with perfect execution. Some do it from genius. Others from effort. Others from silent reading. But all have something in common. When the moment became enormous, they didn't disappear. They didn't ask for someone else to resolve it. They didn't stay watching the scene from the outside. They entered fully into it. And in football, sometimes that is the difference between being part of the match and being written into history. The twist, they also failed. But careful, turning these players into superheroes is a mistake, because decisive players also fail. They also lose finals. They also miss penalties. They also have nights where nothing goes right. The difference is not that they never feel fear. The difference is not that they always win. The difference is not that every important ball ends in a goal. The difference is that they do not negotiate with fear. After failing, they ask for the ball again. After losing, they compete again. After brutal criticism, they expose themselves again. Because appearing in key moments does not mean living protected from error. It means accepting that error can happen and acting anyway. There lies the most human part of all this. The decisive player is not invincible. They are vulnerable, but they do not hide. They know they can be marked forever, and yet they go. That is why we remember them. Not because they are perfect, but because when the match becomes enormous, they dare to enter the most difficult scene. The next time you see a player appear in the 90th minute, don't just think about luck. Look where he was. Look at what he read. Look at the pressure he agreed to carry. Because perhaps that moment didn't find him by chance. Perhaps he prepared his whole life to be there. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and give it a like.